Okay, time to move in. And I've got most of my equipment in here. I set up the desk, reassembled it. It took me all morning to disassemble it and get all the cables out and everything out, and then assemble it here again back. So now it's time to get all the gears back connected. So I'll be doing a very quick videos of all the gears and where they're gonna go, what they are and where they're gonna go and why, and so on, in this short video process. I might do some detailed videos of some of the gear, like patch bays, which I constantly get asked about patch bays and how do they work and how one can actually connect them and use them effectively. So I'll be doing a video on that one. And as I'm installing my other outboard gear, I'll briefly talk about them as well and what their purpose is and what they're used for and how it gets connected. Obviously, most of the gear will be patched through my patch bay. So yes, I guess that's one of the main thing. So the first thing that I am going to be talking about and I guess initial thing is power conditioning. This is my Samsung Power Bright Pro, which is designed for to provide clean power to all of your audio gear, so that any spikes, voltage variation, noise, hum, and all of those things are eliminated. So all my audio equipment will be connected through this. So let's open it up. And that means I'm going to be needing lots of cables. This IEC standard type cables. So you get one that comes from the main power that's connected to the unit, and I will need about 10 of these to connect 10 equipment into it. So because the back of the unit, which we'll see in a minute, are all IEC type connections. Now that's the unit, as you can see. So it looks after your audio gear basically, and behind it, as you can see, I've got 10 outputs, 1 input, and also has lights. So not much. It's useful when you're doing live gigs and things, if you want to see some of the settings in the gear, but I hardly use those ones. And it's got unswitched one here as well. So one switch, everything is turned off. So you don't have to worry about going and switching everything off. 2 lights come out, tells you the voltage. So this will be mounted on that side because all of my input gear is on that side. So I work to the fact that input, process, output. So all of my input gear, like audio processing, will be there. Like my compressors, EQs, all of those things will be there. On my desk, which I need quick access, will be my patch bay, but at the same time will be my audio interfaces that I need to have access to. And on this side will be the outputs. At the same time, it will be like processing, like my reverbs and delays and audio vocal processing, and all of those outboard gear will sit there, as well as my Behringer DEQ 2496, which is digital equalizer, which we will look at later on, which controls my speakers for this room. You know, all my settings that I had in my other room now at the door. So this is a completely different environment. So I have to recalibrate my speakers through the DEQ 2496 to match this room once I put in all of the acoustic panels in as well. So I'm just going to connect this right at the top, because that way if I need power or lights, you know, they point down lights, you know, if need be. So that goes right at the top. So I'm going to do that and I'll be back. Now next we're going to be very quickly looking at is this probably pretty much the heart of my audio monitoring system. This is what gives me clear indication, my personal ears to these ears, how the audio music sounds on my speakers. This is the Behringer Ultra Curve Pro DEQ 2496. It's basically a digital graphic equalizer. It has lots of options, but I mainly use it as my output, so that output from my audio interface connect to the input of this unit, and then the output of this unit connect to my speakers. What happens is this unit, it has a special microphone input, and it's called the RTA, Real-Time Analysis Microphone Input. So my Behringer ECM 8000 reference microphone gets connected here, and then the system itself, I can set it to run pink noise, analyze the room, and then digitally and automatically adjust the graphic equalizer settings to flatten the speaker response. It's basically EQ Wizard built in one. So EQ Wizard basically analyzes the room and gives you a graph. Well, this takes one step further. It actually uses those graph details to adjust the settings. It's not a cheap gear. It's about, I think, a brand new, I purchased about $5.99. That's what I mainly use for. But that's only probably not even a quarter of what it can do. So it can do a lot of things with this unit, but that's what I mainly use it for. You know, you can analyze audio, you can use it for mastering. So if you want to master a track, you can actually run it Outboard into here and then master it, because it will do it for you. So this definitely gets connected to my patch bay, so that in case if I do want to use it as an outboard gear for mastering or graphic EQ, I can just patch it through. But most of the time it just sits between my audio interface and my speakers. Next is another output, the headphone output. This is my headphone amp from Alto, and it's got 8 individual headphone outputs. It has, you know, a main input, and then sort of a chain output through as well. And it's got lots of controls on there to be able to, each headphone user or, you know, the musician, be able to control their individual volume, panning, their bass and treble settings, if they want more bass, less bass and trebles and so on. It also allows you to switch into mono. So if you want to hear everything in the center mono, it's useful for some vocals. It can also allow you to mute left or right channels individually, which is a really great option which you don't find in many headphone amplifiers. Now the other great thing about this, even though it has 4 output individual, I can actually connect another 8 in here. So 12 people can listen for individual settings. I can connect a lot more people here. But a lot of the times, I think I've used maybe 2 or 3 headphones out at any one time. A couple of musicians or friends wants to have a listen while they're singing, visitors. So it's quite useful. And even people can plug in additional instruments in here as well to listen to. So you can do a lot with it. So that goes next on my outboard side. Well, next outboard gear is audio processing that I'm going to put. This is my TC-Helicon VoiceWorks Plus. It basically vocal or any instrument, harmonizer, pitch tuning, and reverb, delay effects, and whole heap of things that it can actually do. You know, harmonize. It actually harmonizes up to group of male and female background vocals. So you can sing once and you will automatically have background vocals, male and female, on either side stereo field, which is really great. I don't use it that often. Every now and then I do get to use it. I do like the reverb in there. If I want to use an outboard reverb instead of using a plugin, it sounds really great. Sometimes it's also great for, pitch correction on the way in. It's, very subtle. It doesn't have any effects that you can really hear as much as, I'm not sure. I haven't tried to make it very aggressive, make it sound like T-Pain, because the pitch correction is very, very subtle. But I hardly ever used it. But most of the time, I use it for the reverb and the delay as an outboard gear. So that will actually fit right there, because I would need to adjust that as I'm doing processing. Okay, the next audio processing unit, and one of my favorite one, and every vocal recording and sometimes acoustic guitars will actually go through this. This is my PreSonus Studio Channel Tube Pre, and I've done a couple of videos on it demonstrating it, so I don't need to go through it as much. So basically, I use it either as an directly plugging the microphone in here, but a lot of times I use it as an outboard gear. So an instrument in my DAW using a pipeline in Studio One will actually come here, gets processed and output, and then I print that. So whatever setting I had, which for that vocal, is all printed. And I love this one. Hopefully one day I hope to get a second one so I can actually use stereo processing. But so far I haven't had the need to, because as I said, I usually use it for vocal mics and acoustic guitars. So that will go on top of the TC-Helicon VoiceWorks Plus. Okay, next gear for, again, audio processing is my Behringer Ultra Voice Pro VX2000, and this is specifically designed for vocal processing because it has low cut, it has gate and expander, tube emulation, compressor, limiter, EQ, as well as de-easer, all built in. So it's a fantastic unit to process vocal, especially really great for voiceovers and commentary production, audio production. It's got, it's basically a mic and line in and output. So and lately I've started patching this into my YouTube video demonstrations as well. I realized that some of the audio quality of my earlier videos weren't up to scratch, but now using this one, it makes it better. I don't know why I wasn't using before. Just being lazy, I guess, or just not, just trying to get the information out rather than trying to provide better quality. But I think it's time that I'll produce better quality audio as well, as on top of the information being provided. So that will go in on top of the TC-Helicon, and then my PreSonus Studio channel will sit on top of that. So I'm going to mount this now. Okay, comes now the heart of all of audio processing, which is my audio interface. Currently, my main audio interface is the Onyx Blackbird from McKee, and this is a Firewire audio interface. It has 8 inputs and 8 outputs, but you can extend that for another 8 in and out using the ADAT. It's got the beautiful mic pre's, and then other inputs as well, line and mic level inputs. These are also instrument level inputs. It's got dual headphone output, it's got direct monitoring, and the other great thing that it has is these 2 mic pre's also have inserts. So I can quite easily plug a microphone in here using the insert through my patch bay, go into my compressor, the studio channel, or even to the Ultra Voice processor from Behringer, and then come back and then be converted. So I can or use any of the other outboard gears to come in and out as well. So it's really great. I'm quite happy with it. The sound quality is really great. Driver metrics is really good because you can have any input assigned to any of the outputs, multiple outputs. So you can even, without DAW, using its own driver, you can assign any of its inputs to any of the 2 headphone outputs and balance them out. So one person will be able to hear their guitar louder as they're playing, and then the vocalist will hear their vocals louder as they singing, so you can balance them out without any issues, even without the DAW. I'm quite happy with it, so it hasn't failed me for quite a few years now, so that will go right on top of that. And on top of that will be the patch bay, which I won't put it in because I want to do a special video of the patch bay being used and how to actually set it up. Okay, let's do some input gear. Now, even though this is not actually an input gear, it is an audio interface. This is my PreSonus AudioBox 1818 VSL, which used to be in the past my main sort of audio interface. But now, these days, I planned to use this as input for miking up multiple instruments, like drum. Because I'm not going to be using it all the time, I'll just have it as an input and will be plugged in to my PC. So whenever I need, up to 8 microphones to mic up a drum, then this is a fantastic option to be able to do that rather than, tie up audio interface. So this will actually go right underneath there as an input. But all of its outputs will be patched through the patch bay. And that way I can patch it through if need be. But this usually is going to be just to record mics in. So once underneath that one, well, this is my Behringer Multicom Pro MDX 4400, which is basically 4 compressors in one. I have never used this gear. I purchased this for the purpose of recording the drums, but that never eventuated. But I'm hoping that now that I've got the space, I'll be able to record drums. This way, any microphone will actually come through the compressor so that it gets processed before it goes into my, AudioBox 1818 VSL input. That way, any large variations in the dynamic range, will be captured so that it doesn't get distorted. So sort of controlling the drums or any loud musical instruments coming in, which has more than 1 or 2 microphones. So, drums, usually you need at least 4 microphones, so you can control some of its dynamics using this 4-in-1 compressor. So that's all there at the back, the inputs and the outputs. And just the general standard threshold ratio. You can control. I think the outputs release time and attack times are automatic. So, but they still do the job. Yeah. So underneath that one, another compressor. This is again Behringer Composer Pro XL MDX 2600. This is a dual channel, single or linked stereo compressor. It's got a lot more options on there, obviously, apart from a gate, compressor with threshold, ratio, attack and release times, as well as makeup gain, and de-easer and peak limiter as well. This is just another dual compressor. Again, input and output. It does have side chain as well, so it's quite useful if you want to do side chaining. I usually use this as an outboard gear into my DAW and use its compression settings if need be. Great on guitars. I found this quality, the sound tonality that comes up, it's really a little bit gritty, so it works really great on electric guitars. So that's what I use it for. So this will go at the bottom of that. Okay, another compressor. This is a dual compressor called Squeeze from Tapco, which is by McKee. Anyway, this is again general purpose, all the normal compressor options available. But I really like this one. I use this for my keyboard, and I just like the tonal quality that comes out for keyboards, for synth sounds and things. When you want to really compress some of the things, or if I'm using my keyboard to record the multi-track options from my Korg PA3X, or in the past my PA800 or my other synthesizers. It gives me another option to play with. I like the gate. Gate works really well. That way, any noise from old synthesizers, you know, they might have a buzz and a hum and things, so that when you're not playing, those sounds don't come through. It gives you nice and clean audio coming in. You know, sometimes when they're not balanced audio connections to your synthesizers, you tend to get sometimes, you know, that buzz and noise. But this works really well. So I really like this as, you know, line level, you know, compressor. So that will go underneath that one. Okay, last but not least, well, sort of last, that's going to go in my rack anyway, is my alto compressor. Again, dual channel, general purpose standard compressor with all of the standard settings with stereo link. Now this came with my alto headphone amplifier that I just shown you before. So I've only used it once or twice. I haven't really used it much, but yeah, it's there. It will just sit there in case I ever need an extra compressor, or maybe one day I try it and I like the tonal quality and how the attack and release works, you know, because every compressor have their own characteristics, and you just have to listen to them on the different instruments and find out which sounds better. Sometimes one compressor with very similar setups, like in attack and ratio and release and so on, will sound different in one compressor than the other because of just the electronics and the circuitry design inside them. It'll be different. So maybe one day I'll use them, but it'll just sit there waiting for it to be used. Well, after a long day, I finally have most of my gear screwed in and power cables connected. I had to go and purchase extra IEC type cables so I can plug them into my Power Bright power conditioner. So I have powered them up, and everything is all going. My PC is also up and going as well, so that I'll be able to copy all the videos from my camera onto my PC so that I can actually start making more videos. So there'll be more videos coming through as I continue to set up the room, including the acoustic panels, and I'll be doing tests as well before I put the acoustic panels with just the equipment all plugged in, and then do another test with the acoustic panels in, so we can actually compare how much difference the acoustic panels make in this room. So even now, the echo is pretty much 50% gone because of the amount of equipment and things around in the room, including all of that, and some of the panels already in. I'm pretty sure you can actually tell that reverberation is way down, probably I'll say at least 50%. So it'll be even more so when I get the acoustic panels up onto the walls. And another thing I want to talk about are those things. I'll tell you what they are and what they are going to be used for and why they're standing there later on when I actually work out and talk about the acoustics of the room. Until next time, as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio. See ya.